At 6:12 a.m., I opened my garage and saw a stranger slapping a bright orange "Seized by Homeowners Association" sticker on my truck like it was government property. A tow truck sat idling at the curb chain already hanging, and a woman in a white blazer was smiling at my house like she'd finally won something. 10 minutes later, I realized this wasn't community standards anymore. It was a coordinated shakedown on my own driveway. My name's Alex Carter, and I moved into Cedar Ridge Estates in Phoenix because I wanted quiet. A normal neighborhood, a normal routine, work, home, sleep, repeat. I wasn't looking for drama, and I definitely wasn't looking for the Homeowners Association to start acting like they had a badge. The first time I heard about the HOA, it was in the welcome packet. Pool rules, trash, pickup days, landscaping suggestions, the usual stuff. The second time I heard about it, I met Linda Parker, Cedar Ridge's HOA president, and she treated my driveway like it was her personal stage. It was day one. I was unloading boxes, sweaty, exhausted, just trying to find my coffee maker. Linda marched up with a clipboard and that tight smile people wear when they're already annoyed at you. She pointed at my truck like it offended her. "That can't be parked there." I blinked. "In my driveway." She nodded like she'd done this 1,000 times. "We don't allow work vehicles. It ruins the look of the community." "It's not a work vehicle," I said, keeping my voice level. "It's my personal truck." Linda's eyes narrowed a little like I'd just corrected a teacher in front of the class. "You'll get a notice," she said, and she walked away before I could even ask what that meant. 2 days later, I got the notice. An email from Cedar Ridge Compliance with a nice little PDF attached $150 fine for aesthetic violation. Then a paper letter hand-delivered tucked into my door like a threat. Further non-compliance may result in enforcement actions. Enforcement actions. In a suburban neighborhood, over a truck. I tried the reasonable route first. I replied to the email polite as I could be asking for the exact rule I violated. I asked for a board contact. I asked for an appeal process. The response came back fast, short, and smug. "The rule is clear. Pay within 10 days. After that, it turned into a pattern. Little things, petty things, weaponized things. One week it was my trash bins visible from the street, even though they were behind my fence. The next week it was my porch light too bright. Then it was my curtains' non-uniform appearance. I didn't even know curtains could be a crime until Linda Parker made it one. And it wasn't just the fines. It was the way she showed up. One afternoon I came home and noticed my side gate was unlatched. I knew I'd locked it. I checked my doorbell camera, and there she was, Linda, standing with some guy in a dark polo shirt. She leaned in, pointed toward my backyard, and the guy nodded like he was taking inventory. I marched straight to her door and knocked. When she answered, I held up my phone. "Why were you on my property?" I asked. Linda didn't flinch. "We were conducting an exterior compliance check." "You opened my gate." She tilted her head. "HOA has a duty to protect the community." "Not by trespassing," I said, and my voice came out sharper than I meant it to. "Stay off my property." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Then stop making it an issue," she said, like I was the one causing problems by wanting my gate closed. By the end of the month, the fines were nearly $1,000. 940-something to be exact because they itemized it like a restaurant bill. I got another letter with a word that made my stomach drop. Lean. That's when it stopped being annoying and started feeling dangerous. I went to the next HOA meeting because I figured, fine, let's do this in public. Let's talk like adults. I walked into the clubhouse with printed emails, timestamps, pictures of my driveway, the whole boring little evidence package you make when you're trying to be responsible. Linda was at the front tapping a gavel like she was running a courtroom. When the open forum part came, she didn't even wait for me to speak. She looked straight at me and said into the mic, "We have a homeowner who refuses to cooperate and threatens the stability of our community standards." Every head turned. It was a small room, and suddenly it felt smaller. I stood up and said, "I'm not refusing to cooperate. I'm asking for the actual rule and for you to stop entering my property." Linda's eyebrows lifted like I'd told a joke. "We don't need permission to enforce compliance," she said, calm as a weather report. "If you don't like it, you can take it up with the board." I looked around at the board. Nobody met my eyes. A couple people stared at their phones like their screens were more interesting than the power trip happening right in front of them. I walked out of that meeting feeling not dramatic, not broken, just worn down, like I was arguing with a wall that could find me. That night, I spread the letters on my kitchen table and did the most unromantic thing imaginable. I ran numbers. I counted fees. I calculated what it would cost to keep fighting versus paying just to make it stop. And I hate admitting this, but for a minute I honestly thought, maybe I should just pay it, swallow my pride, and move on. Not because I believed she was right, but because I could feel my life shrinking around this nonsense. Then Saturday morning happened. I woke up early, made coffee, and heard a heavy knock fast hard like the door owed somebody money. I didn't open the front door right away. I checked the camera. 4 men in black shirts stood on my driveway. The shirts had compliance printed across the chest in block letters like a Halloween costume for authority. One of them held a clipboard. Another had a radio clipped to his belt like he was somebody official. And there behind them was a tow truck easing into position. I stepped out into the garage, keeping the door between us. "Can I help you?" The guy with the clipboard smiled like he was pleased to see me. "We're here under direction of the Homeowners Association. Vehicle seizure for ongoing violations. We'll be taking the truck and we'll be securing access to the garage." I stared at him. "You're not taking anything." He shrugged. "If you interfere, we can call neighborhood security." "Neighborhood security? Right." I looked at the tow truck driver, then back at the clipboard guy. "Show me your company license," I said. "Show me paperwork that says you can touch my property." He tapped the clipboard like it answered everything. "It's HOA enforcement." That's when my garage door camera caught a familiar figure stepping onto the driveway. Linda Parker, blazer and all, strolling up like she'd come to watch a show. She didn't even pretend. She stood a few feet behind them and called out, "Alex, this would all be easier if you'd just complied." Something in me went cold and then very clear. I wasn't dealing with a neighbor. I wasn't dealing with rules. I was dealing with someone who'd decided she could outsource intimidation and call it governance. I took one step forward and said, "Nobody touches my truck. Nobody comes onto my property. Back up." Clipboard guy chuckled. "You can't stop this." And right then, Jenna Morales, my neighbor from across the street, ran over in sweatpants with her phone in her hand. She looked pale and furious. "Alex," she said breathless, "don't let them do it. I have video. I saw Linda meet them behind the clubhouse." She handed them a cash envelope. I recorded it. Linda snapped her head toward Jenna. "That is not what happened." Jenna didn't even look at her. She just held up the phone. "It's literally what happened." In that moment, the whole situation shifted. The men stopped smiling. The tow truck driver suddenly got very interested in not making eye contact. I turned to Linda. "You hired these guys," I said quiet. Not a question. Linda's smile twitched. "They're authorized contractors." "By who?" I asked. "You." She took a step forward. "By the association." I pulled out my phone and dialed non-emergency police with my thumb, eyes still on her. "Hi," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I have unknown individuals attempting to seize property from my driveway. I believe they're trespassing and impersonating enforcement. I have video evidence." Linda's face changed, just a flicker, but it was there. The first sign she wasn't fully in control anymore. While I stayed on the line, I opened my email archive and scrolled fast. I had saved every message, every fine, every threat. I'd even printed the bylaws the night before because I couldn't sleep. And buried in the boring legal language was the thing Linda never wanted anyone to read out loud. The HOA could fine, they could send notices, they could pursue collections through proper channels, but they could not under any circumstance physically seize personal property without legal process. No compliance squad, no tow truck ambush, no cash envelope behind the clubhouse. The police arrived within minutes, 2 officers, calm, no drama. They spoke to me first. Then they spoke to the men. Then they spoke to Linda. I watched Linda do what Linda always did, try to talk like she was in charge. "This homeowner is non-compliant," she said, crisp and offended. "We're enforcing community rules." One officer looked at the shirts. "Are you law enforcement?" Clipboard guy tried to laugh it off. "No, we're—" "Then stop using language and apparel that suggests you are the officer," said flat. "And step off the property." Linda's lips pressed tight. "You can't just—" The officer turned to her. "Ma'am, do you have a court order?" Linda opened her mouth and nothing came out. That was the loudest silence I've ever heard. That afternoon, there was an emergency board meeting at the clubhouse because half the neighborhood had seen the tow truck and the police cars. The room was packed, this time standing room only, people whispering, phones out, everyone suddenly very awake. Linda tried to run it like usual. She tapped the gavel. "This meeting will come to order." I stood up before she could build momentum. I didn't shout, I didn't rant. I just walked to the front, plugged my phone into the screen, and said, "I'm going to show you what enforcement looked like this morning." The video played. Linda behind the clubhouse handing over an envelope. Linda pointing toward my house. Linda saying clear as day, "Do it quick before he makes noise." You could feel the room change, people's faces tightening, that little snap when trust breaks. Linda lifted her hands like she could physically push the truth away. "This is out of context." Jenna spoke up from the back, voice loud and steady. "It's exactly the context." A board member, Mark Reynolds, the guy who never looked up from his phone before, finally stood. He looked at Linda like he was seeing her for the first time. "Did you authorize contractors to seize a resident's vehicle?" Linda's eyes flashed. "I did what I had to do to protect the community." Mark didn't flinch. "No," he said, "you did what you wanted to do because nobody stopped you." Someone called for a vote right there, an immediate motion to remove Linda as president, to suspend her authority to audit the fines, and to forward the incident to the association's attorney and the police report. Linda started talking over people, trying to regain control, voice climbing higher and sharper. "You can't do this. You don't understand how much work I do." But it was too late. The room didn't belong to her anymore. The vote happened fast. Hands up counted, recorded. The result wasn't close. Linda went still, like her brain was buffering. Then she stood clutching her blazer at the collar, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked small, not defeated in a movie way, just caught. One of the officers who'd stayed nearby stepped forward and said, "Ma'am, we're going to need your statement regarding the individuals you hired and the payment you made." Linda's mouth opened again, searching for a way to spin it, and nothing came. She walked out of this clubhouse with the officer beside her, and the door shut behind them. Hard. Final, no applause, no victory speech, just consequences landing where they were supposed to. Power only works when everyone agrees to pretend it's normal.